Welcome to Daily Stoic Practice, your compass to navigate the complexities of modern life with ancient wisdom. Throughout my years of observing people and their behaviors, I've come to understand something profound. Intelligence isn't just about knowing a lot of things. It's about how you live, how you treat others, and most importantly, how well you learn from your mistakes. But here's the twist. There are 6 clear and unmistakable signs that reveal when someone is, let's just say, lacking in wisdom. Now, before you roll your eyes or dismiss this as just another list, let me explain why this matters. Recognizing these signs isn't about labeling others or putting people down. It's about self-reflection, personal growth, and ensuring that we don't fall into these same pitfalls ourselves. It's also about helping those who might not even realize they're trapped in cycles of foolishness. So, join me on this journey as we uncover these 6 undeniable signs of a foolish person. Each one comes with a lesson, a real-life example, and an opportunity for us to look in the mirror and assess where we stand. Because the path to wisdom always begins with awareness. Ready to walk this road with me? Let's begin. 1. Talking more than listening. Have you ever met someone who talks endlessly but never listens? They dominate conversations, interrupt others, and seem more interested in hearing themselves speak than actually engaging in meaningful discussions. This is a hallmark of foolishness. Those who talk more than they listen fail to learn, fail to connect, and ultimately fail to grow. Let me tell you about John, a father I once knew. Every evening at dinner, John would monopolize the conversation. His children would try to share their experiences from school, but John rarely let them finish a sentence. Instead, he would interrupt, offering his own stories, his own wisdom, his own opinions. His wife, too, struggled to be heard. When she suggested changes to improve the family's finances, John immediately dismissed her ideas, insisting that his way was the best. John thought he was leading his family, but in reality, he was alienating them. His refusal to listen made his children feel unheard, his wife feel unappreciated, and his home feel like a stage for his monologues rather than a space for open dialogue. Over time, his family stopped trying to talk to him altogether. Listening is not just a passive act, it is an essential skill for wisdom. Those who listen deeply gain insight, build stronger relationships, and cultivate understanding. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true intelligence isn't about proving how much you know. It's about recognizing how much you can still learn. So next time you're in a conversation, pause and ask yourself, am I truly listening, or am I just waiting for my turn to speak? Because the wise person listens, learns, and grows. The foolish person only hears themselves. 2. A closed mind. A closed mind is like a fortress of ignorance, built brick by brick with fear, pride, and stubbornness. It is the enemy of growth, the barrier that keeps wisdom and progress from entering. People with closed minds not only reject new ideas, but also sabotage their own potential for improvement. They live within the rigid confines of what they already know, treating anything unfamiliar as a threat rather than an opportunity. Take Mark, for example, a department manager at a company I once worked for. Mark firmly believed that the old ways of working were the best, despite clear signs that his team was falling behind competitors. When a younger employee suggested implementing modern project management software to improve efficiency, Mark dismissed the idea outright. "We've done it this way for 10 years, and it's worked fine," he declared. But had it really worked? While other teams in the company adapted and improved, Mark's team remained stagnant. Instead of evolving, they struggled to keep up, their performance slipping. Yet Mark refused to acknowledge the problem. Instead, he blamed his staff, the market, even luck. Anything but his own refusal to change. A closed mind is dangerous not only for the individual but for everyone around them. Wise people, in contrast, understand that true confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from being open to learning. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom isn't about being right all the time, but about having the humility to grow and adapt. So ask yourself, do you welcome new ideas, or do you instinctively reject them? Are you willing to admit when you're wrong, or do you cling to outdated beliefs just because they feel comfortable? Only when we let go of our rigid thinking can we truly open the door to wisdom. Three, constant blaming. Foolish people are masters of excuses. Nothing is ever their fault. A failed project, the market was too difficult. A missed promotion, their boss was biased. Their relationships keep falling apart, it's always the other person's problem. Deep down, we all know that blaming is just a defense mechanism, a way to avoid facing the truth. But the irony is that while blame may feel like a shield, it eventually becomes a prison, trapping a person in a cycle of failure and stagnation. Consider Lisa, an event organizer I once worked with. She was responsible for planning a major conference. When the event flopped due to poor attendance, Lisa immediately pointed fingers at the marketing team for not promoting it well enough. But after some investigation, it became clear that Lisa had failed to send the event details on time, delaying the entire marketing campaign. Even then, she refused to take responsibility. Instead, she continued blaming external factors. The result? Her colleagues lost trust in her, and Lisa eventually stepped down from her position, not because she was incapable, but because her refusal to take responsibility cost her credibility. Owning up to mistakes is uncomfortable, but it's necessary for growth. The wisest people are not those who never fail, but those who acknowledge their failures and learn from them. Stoic philosophy teaches us that self-mastery begins with responsibility. If you find yourself falling into a pattern of blaming others, take a step back and ask, have I truly done everything I could to change this situation? Because while blame changes nothing, responsibility changes everything. 4. Arrogance over humility. Have you ever met someone who constantly tries to prove they're the smartest person in the room? They talk over others, dismiss differing opinions, and seem obsessed with being right. This is the third sign of a foolish person: arrogance. Arrogance is not just annoying, it's one of the biggest obstacles to learning and growth. Meet Michael, a manager at a large corporation. In every meeting, he would dominate the conversation, interrupt colleagues, and mock their suggestions. When the company faced a major setback, Michael blamed his team for not executing his brilliant ideas properly. But in reality, it was his arrogance, his refusal to listen, that had derailed the entire project. When his boss asked him to reflect on what went wrong, Michael struggled to find an answer. Why? Because arrogance had blinded him to the possibility that he might have been the problem. Humility, on the other hand, is a cornerstone of intelligence. It's not about thinking less of yourself, but about recognizing that there is always more to learn. A truly wise person listens more than they speak. They ask questions. They seek understanding rather than validation. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the greatest wisdom comes from opening ourselves to new perspectives. So next time you find yourself in a discussion, pause and ask yourself, Are you listening to understand or just waiting for your turn to talk? Because real intelligence isn't about making others feel small. It's about empowering everyone around you. Five, lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to understand their feelings, and to acknowledge their struggles. Without it, people live in emotional isolation, unable to form meaningful connections. A lack of empathy doesn't just harm relationships, it makes a person blind to the depth and complexity of life itself. Paul, a coworker of mine, had a habit of complaining about delays in project deadlines. He never stopped to ask why these delays happened. He only cared about the inconvenience to himself. Once, a colleague named Susan missed a deadline because her son was seriously ill. Paul publicly criticized her in front of the entire team, shaming her for a poor work ethic. A year later, Paul found himself in a similar situation. His mother fell ill, and suddenly he understood what it felt like to struggle with personal hardships while trying to keep up with work. It was only then that he realized how cruel and thoughtless his past words had been. Empathy isn't just about being nice, it's about gaining perspective. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom doesn't come from knowing everything, but from truly understanding others. The wisest people are those who listen, who acknowledge different experiences, and who offer compassion rather than judgment. If you ever find yourself being dismissive of someone else's struggles, take a moment to ask yourself, what if this were me? That simple shift in perspective could be the difference between ignorance and wisdom. Six, fear of change. Change is inevitable. The world is constantly evolving, and those who refuse to adapt will find themselves left behind. Yet many people fear change, clinging to old habits, outdated ways of thinking, and familiar routines, even when those routines no longer serve them. The comfort zone may feel safe, but in reality, it's a prison. Those who fear change often choose short-term comfort over long-term growth, failing to realize that life itself is a series of changes. Take Michael, for instance, a man who spent his entire life in the same small neighborhood. He knew every street, every shop, and every neighbor. When his grown children encouraged him to move to a new city for better opportunities, Michael resisted. "I know everyone here. Why should I leave?" he argued. But over time, the neighborhood changed. Old friends moved away, local businesses closed, and the sense of familiarity faded. Michael still refused to adapt, holding on to the past even as the present moved forward without him. Eventually, he relented and moved closer to his children. To his surprise, he discovered that his new surroundings weren't as intimidating as he had imagined. In fact, the move brought him opportunities, comfort, and a fresh perspective he never thought possible. Fear of change doesn't just keep people stuck, it prevents them from experiencing life to the fullest. Stoic philosophy reminds us that change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. Life is like a river. It flows, bends, and shifts course. The wise learn to navigate it, while the foolish stand still, trying to hold back the current. If you find yourself resisting change, ask, what am I really afraid of? What could I gain if I embraced the unknown? Because while staying the same may feel safe, real growth happens when we step into the unfamiliar. We've now explored the 6 undeniable signs of a foolish person: a closed mind, constant blaming, arrogance over humility, lack of empathy, fear of change, and talking more than listening. But before you start wondering, do I have any of these traits? Pause for a moment. The truth is, all of us, at some point in life, have exhibited one or more of these signs. Maybe we've resisted change, maybe we've blamed others instead of taking responsibility, or maybe we've talked when we should have listened. That doesn't mean we are foolish. It means we are human. The key is not to avoid ever making these mistakes, but to recognize them, correct them, and strive to be better. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom is not about always being right, but about constantly learning. Every mistake is an opportunity for self-reflection. Every challenge is a chance to grow. Each one of these foolish traits can, in fact, be transformed into a lesson that pushes us toward greater wisdom. So if you find yourself resonating with any of these traits, don't be discouraged. Instead, see it as an invitation to evolve. Step out of your comfort zone, take responsibility for your life, listen more than you speak, and embrace the journey of self-improvement. Because here's the truth. Stupidity is temporary, but wisdom is a journey. And the best part, you're in control of which path you take. Keep growing. Thank you for listening. Also, I invite you to check out our playlist, which will appear on screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Don't miss our daily videos, insightful discussions, and practical tips for applying Stoic principles to your modern life.